Welcome to the Ideal National Championship for 2022 from beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida, where $600,000 of cash and prizes will be given out to some of the very best electricians in the United States. We'll start out with round one. We're covering Greg Anlicker. He is the three-time national champion. This is the scope that the contestants are given prior to the challenge. This is a Siemens main panel with a 200 amp breaker disconnect switch, and below that on the left hand side in the number 1 and the number 3 positions are two 15 amp breakers, and the top breaker in the number 1 position will have a 14 gauge black wire coming to it, and below that will be another 15 amp breaker with a red 14 gauge wire coming to it. And to the right of that, in the numbers 2 and 4 positions in the panel, will be a 50 amp breaker. And to the right of that will be a sub panel, and in the sub panel will be a 15 amp breaker with a black 14 gauge wire coming to it. And then below that, in the number 4 position, will be a 20 amp breaker with a red 12 gauge wire coming to it. They will also have to run a lighting circuit. This is a 3-way switch, and this is a 3-way switch, and this is a light, and this is a 15 amp circuit. They will also have to run a receptacle circuit to this receptacle, and this receptacle. Greg will start off by installing the two 15 amp breakers on the left side. The papers that he has in his hand are the scope that I just showed you. Now he has grabbed the EGC, that's equipment grounding conductor wire, that is provided for him. At the same time, he has grabbed two black hot feeders and one white neutral feeder. He'll run them between the main panel and the sub panel. He'll strip the end off of the EGC wire, and he will attach it to the bar on the right of the main panel. Now he'll strip the end off the white neutral feeder, and he will attach it to the same bar that he attached the EGC wire to, and he can do that because it is the main panel. Now he'll attach the two black hot feeders to the 50 amp circuit breaker. When he's done, they'll look like this. Now he'll land the EGC wire on the sub panel. The EGC wires and the neutrals must be separated on a sub panel. He attached the EGC wire to the ground bar where the blue arrow is. Now he'll land the white neutral feeder to the neutral terminal of the sub panel. When he's done, the sub panel neutral feeder connection will look like this. Now Greg will connect the two hot feeders to the two hot lugs of the sub panel. Now he'll start the circuit wiring. He's going to start with a 12 gauge wire, and he's going to pull that through to the first box where he's going to have a single receptacle on that 20 amp circuit. He'll bring the white neutral wire to the neutral bar, and he'll bring the red hot wire to the 20 amp breaker. Now Greg will pull black and white 14 gauge wires for his 15 amp circuit that comes from the sub panel. He runs the black and white wire into the box that is going to have the receptacle that will be on the 15 amp circuit coming from the sub panel. Then he runs the black and white wires through the box that is going to house the receptacle for the 20 amp circuit, and then up into the sub panel. Now he'll strip and land the 14 gauge white neutral wire on the neutral bar. Now he'll connect the 14 gauge black hot wire to the 15 amp breaker. Now with the 15 amp breaker hooked up, he's going to grab the wire that is coming out of the box that will house the 15 amp receptacle, and he cuts it. Okay, now he takes the same wire, puts it in the box that is going to have one of the three-way switches, and then he runs it up to the main panel. Now he's stripping the black and white 14 gauge wires, and he'll run the white 14 gauge wire to the bar on the left, and he'll run the 14 gauge black wire to the 15 amp receptacle. Here's where the 14 gauge white wire went, and here's where the 14 gauge black wire went. He'll quickly measure up and figure out how much white wire he's going to need, give himself plenty of extra, cut it, and then he's going to cut the black wire, which is the power wire. Now Greg is going to grab a black and a blue wire, which are going to be his traveler wires, going from three-way switch number 1 to three-way switch number 2, and he's going to grab his continuous white wire, and he's going to run those 3 wires through the conduit from the first three-way switch box to the second three-way switch box. I'd like to pause the video for just a moment to explain what just happened. Now this is the first three-way switch box, and Greg has a black power wire coming here from the panel, from the main panel, and this is the white wire. It is in a loop. I see. Now this, we call this a line wire that will hook up to the black terminal of the three-way switch and will give the lighting circuit power. Now this wire right here, since this is a standard three-way switch, this is not going to be used on the switch, but it's necessary for a neutral to be in the box. So he's going to pull out about this length in both of the three-way switches, and he'll give it a little twist and put it into the back of the box. And over here we have a black wire and a blue wire that he just put into this EMT, and it goes to the other three-way switch box. And these are traveler wires. The black and the blue are going to be traveler wires. The neutral is going to continue on unspliced and just put it in the back of the box, but he lengthens it so that it can actually be used if he would like to replace the standard three-way switch with a digital three-way switch that needs a neutral. It'll be there, and it will be there in sufficient length where it can be worked on easily. So this is the power, this is the neutral, and these are the traveler wires. Now Greg will grab a yellow wire from his spool of yellow wire, and with his white wire that is continuously run to the second three-way switch box, he will run the yellow wire and the white wire up to the light. The yellow wire is going to be the power wire for the light. Also notice that we have this white loop right here, which will make it very easy to add a digital three-way switch or something like that later on. And right here we have a blue wire, and right here we have a black wire. So this once again is the power to the light, and we call that a load wire because the light is the load. Now Greg is going to jump over and work on the 20 amp circuit that comes from the sub panel. Now he'll work on the 15 amp circuit that comes from the sub panel. And now he'll work on the first three-way switch box. He's cutting the wires to proper lengths and stripping ends on them and making loops. Now Greg is going to work on the 15 amp receptacle circuit for the three lower receptacles. He has a red 14 amp wire and a white 14 amp wire. He's running it up the EMT to the next receptacle box. And there it comes out right there. And he's going to put it back in the other EMT. And it's just going to be in the form of a loop right now. And it's going to come out the third box. Now he'll run the 14 gauge red and white wires up the EMT through the first three-way switch box and up into the main panel. He'll cut the wires to length, strip ends on the wires, and then he'll connect the white wire to the grounding / neutral bar, and then he'll attach the red wire to a 15 amp breaker. Now he's going to work on the 15 amp receptacle circuit. He has left the first two receptacle boxes with wire loops, and he's going to strip small sections of insulation off of the middle of the loops. Now Greg will attach bonding wires to each of the metal boxes. The EMT does serve as an equipment grounding conductor, so when he attaches the bonding wires to the installed devices will be grounded. Here in the second three-way switch box, you can see the bonding wire firmly attached to the metal box, and it goes right here. And then of course there's the yellow power wire and the blue and the black traveler wires and the white neutral wire, which is in the form of a loop. All of the metal device boxes will get bonding wires. Now Greg will go around and strip and loop any wires that still need it. Now Greg will install mud rings. This circular mud ring is a 1/2 inch mud ring, and it is made for light fixtures. Now he'll install the mud rings for the switches and receptacles. It will convert a 4x4 box into a single device box. Now Greg will twist his neutral loops a little bit and put both of them back into the back of the boxes. This is how Greg wired this first three-way switch. This is your line wire right here. This is the one that is coming from the main panel. It goes around like this, and it goes like this, and it goes right down here to the common terminal of the three-way switch. This energizes the three-way switch system. Here's your black and your blue wires. This black wire goes back here, and it goes right here to one of the traveler wire terminals. That's the brass colored terminal on this side. This blue wire goes to the other traveler wire terminal, which is also brass colored. And here's your bonding wire right here, and it goes to the grounding terminal. And just as a note, we have the red wire and the white wire going through this box down to a receptacle circuit. Here's how Greg wired the second three-way switch. Now, first of all, this is the yellow wire, and that goes to the load. So we call it a load wire, and the load is the light in our case. So this goes to the black terminal. Remember, we ran the line wire to the black terminal on the first three-way switch. Well, this is the load wire. We like to use a yellow colored wire when we are running conduit to a light or fan. And here's your blue and your black traveler wires, and they go to the brass colored terminals right here and right here. And here's your bonding wire, which goes to the ground terminal. Now he will install the receptacle that goes to the 20 amp circuit from the sub panel. This is the receptacle that he just installed in the video, and this is a 20 amp circuit. This is your red hot wire that goes to the receptacle, and this is your neutral, and this is your green bonding wire. And notice that this is a 15 amp circuit that goes to this box. You see how it just goes through in an unspliced manner over to this box right here. As I mentioned, Greg did not cut his neutral or hot wires. He instead removed a small portion of the insulation, and he's going to put this around one of the silver terminals. And over here you see he's ready to put this around one of the brass colored hot terminals. Now for the second receptacle on the 15 amp receptacle circuit. And you can see that he has not cut the white neutral or the red hot wires. Now for the third and last receptacle on the 15 amp receptacle circuit. These wires are not looped because it's the last one on the circuit. So he'll just put them on the terminals and tighten them down. Now he'll install the receptacles and switches in their respective boxes. Now to install the light fixture. Greg will now torque down the breakers with the ideal torque screwdriver. He'll tighten down his Siemens 15 and 20 amp breakers to 25 pound-inch. The torque specs for a Siemens ground bar is 20 pound-inch for the small holes and 35 pound-inch for the large holes. That's for 14 to 10 AWG. Now Greg will put stickers on the wires in the panels to designate what circuit they go to. For example, this black wire is marked number 2 and it goes to circuit breaker number 2.
Labels. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. As far as a challenge goes, how confident on a scale of 1 to 10 are you on all of these things?
On this board, yeah, this is a 10 board.
Now let's see if Greg will advance to round 2. There were over 70 professional contestants and 30 will advance to round 2.
With a familiar face, Jacob Jones. Next up, Clay Colwell. Michael Fox. Family's all here. Kevin Conover. Corbin Rios. All right, we're going to get some fresh blood up here. How about Alec Perkins? Craig Anlicker. Josh Tower. Nicholas Wonderlick. Lance Gisbrink. All right, nice job. That's our first 10.
Yeah.
Next name, if you'll join me just to my left in the next row. Oscar Perez. Albert Nadeau. Mark LaJoy. Tom Kennedy. Another legend, Andreas Pena. Jared Browder. Come on, Seth Agnew. The infamous Roman Rosinski. Justin Shireman. Number 20 is Austin Swanson. All right, that's the top 20. The final 10, if you'll join me in the front row. Eric Martin. Looks good, doesn't it? Patrick Clyland. James Jones. Joe Mendenhall. Christian DeHarden. Todd Frazier. Still in the running, Anthony Kowalczyk. Three names left. Nick Devaney. Just two names. There's a lot of others still over there. Come on up, Hiram Pendergrass. And the final pro to join us into the second round. Let's welcome Daniel Becerra.